In this episode, there is digging, scraping, and some extreme jet washing. Jane does some planting, and we go to see the Christmas lights in town. Actually, that's all the Christmas footage we have. As Bunty potters beneath a beautiful morning sky, I'm reminded not of the most excellent canopy the air, nor the brave o'erhanging firmament fretted with golden fire. Instead, I'm reminded that I need a pee as well. I had convinced myself that I would be spending the week working on the guest suite, maybe finding time to repair the back stairs as well, but as usual, some new and unexpected task reared its head and demanded my attention. It's always been in our plan to have a hot tub, for our use and for guests, but there was no rush to buy it, until there was. Jane found the right one at the right price, and they want to deliver it in a week's time. This wouldn't have been a problem, except that the patio in front of the Orangerie isn't wide enough to take a 2-metre diameter hot tub, which meant it needed to be biggened.
As luck would have it, we'd found some leftover slabs in the barn, and I was optimistic that we'd have enough because I really wanted the hot tub. We had 18, and we think it might just work.
First of all, we had to prep the ground for the patio extension. I dug and scraped down through the wet clay earth, which was unsurprisingly exhausting. It needed to be about 150 millimetres below the finished surface. This would then be backfilled with gravel, compacted down, and then the slabs would be cemented into place. It looks a lot easier when you speed it up. After a while, I realised that my helper was no longer helping, so I downed tools and went to find her.
So Rory, look at these. Loads more of the octagonal terracotta tiles. I don't know how many there are. There must be 30 or so, and they're going to be perfect for making the middle of my circle. Really pleased. Less whittling for you.
My silence here was due to me being completely out of breath from digging, and I was trying not to pant loudly on camera. Back on the dig site, we found bones. Rib bones to be precise, but much too large for a human, so we won't inform the authorities. Knowing that between then and the hot tub delivery we were expecting 5 days of heavy rain. This meant we really wanted to get as much done as possible while the going was good. Sadly, a petrol plate compactor wasn't within our budget, and so to tamp the gravel we had to improvise. And our solution? River dance. Welcome to Jane's Find of the Day with Jane.
Hello and welcome to this week's Find of the Day at Chateau De Pican. Today, first of all, what am I wearing? Well, you could be forgiven for thinking that we've gone back to the 1980s. I'm wearing an all-in-one ski suit. Rory and I went to a second-hand sale about a month ago, and all ski items were being sold for €10. So I bought this for €10 and I thought, this is going to be perfect for those cold days in the chateau, as much as outside the chateau. And today it is probably cold indoors and it's miserable outside, but I'm cozy warm, very happy. Okay, I'm in the Orangerie, and this is going to be an amazing venue ultimately. And it's actually quite comfortable in here because it gets summer sun, or even winter sun, gets south-facing sunshine. And I was having a look around, and of course I found something in here to look at. So this is, on the face of it, a copper cauldron. It's got a handle carrying it around. And if you look inside, it looks to be beaten copper, which I understand is done to make the copper stronger. It's pretty heavy, but I wasn't sure whether it had ever been used as a cauldron or whether it was actually always a decorative item, because they're quite well known for being used as cache-pot, jardinière, so for putting a big flower pot in and having it as a decorative item. I suspect, without any real knowledge, that is what happens to it. I mean, if you look inside, I don't think there's any evidence that this has been used in anger as a cooking vessel. I think copper cookware certainly is always tin lined to protect the food from reacting with the copper. Certainly isn't that. And do I think this has ever had a flame under it? I don't. So I think this was probably made to be decorative, but it is rather nice. When I first saw it, I wasn't even 100% sure it was real copper, but there is a test for real copper. So copper is a diamagnetic atom, which is to say that it has paired electrons. I used to do chemistry. So it doesn't react to attract magnetic things. In fact, it repels them. You can see it does not stick. Just dropped it. Whereas, what about these legs? What are they made of? Okay, sticks to that. So this looks to be cast iron. Cast iron up here. And inside here though, we've got some bits which don't really stick. So I think maybe it's got copper rivets. It's been copper riveted to the copper. Oh, that doesn't stick. So yeah, it's made of real copper. Just as a guess, I wouldn't guess that that's been hand hammered. I suspect this has been made to have a particular aesthetic, but it's a big one. With its legs, it's going to make quite an impact, quite a statement in a room.
Okay, so last week we used this, which is De Pican Gel Express Special Colle, which basically means it gets dried adhesive off things, off carpet adhesive, off stone, off wood, off whatever you like. And so I'm going to try and really clean up this half this week, like we did in the last episode in the bedroom next door. I'm going to do this, and some of the more stuck down areas I'm going to try and get the old bits of carpet up and see where we are after that, because I'm quite eager to see just at what state the marble hearth is under here, because there are some cracks in the adhesive, so I don't know whether there's cracks in the hearth as well, but this will tell us in about 45 minutes or so. So I think I just need to spread it on like this, just scrape it around a bit. I've completely covered the hearth now with the adhesive remover, and I've also gone around the edge of the wood as well. Now the edge, I'm led to believe, takes less time, supposedly. You don't need it on. Maybe that means if it's on too long it could start damaging the wood or something. So I'm just going to leave it half an hour, even though it says to leave it for like 45 minutes or more for other materials. So I'll come back in half an hour, see where we are with the wood, and if that's coming off, great. If not, I can leave it a little bit longer and test it after that.
The following day I was back outside the Orangerie. Now, with the best will in the world, our river dancing didn't do a good enough job of tamping down the gravel, so I had to improvise again. I cable-tied several plywood squares to a sledgehammer and hey presto, a small but useful tamping tool. It was time to test the strength of our relationship, and we'd come up with the most time-consuming way of solving a very simple problem.
Me if you want to go sideways, backwards, or forwards across the windows, because if you throw it at the window, you're more likely to smash your window.
Well, how's it balancing it to you? I mean, like a circle?
Yeah.
The circle. Perfect. Let's see.
Now you might need to move those tools out of the way, because otherwise I'll never be close enough to it.
Let's practice.
So you're still going out the window. Why,
Oh, yeah.
why are you doing it out the window? Go sideways.
Sideways, like this.
Yeah.
It's not going to reach you like this.
Well, if you get close enough, and you're doing it in a proper, because you're still going out the window. If you
I don't know how to do it.
well, stop standing square onto the window, and then if you turn that way, other way, point, stop, less. Now do as you were.
It's going to hit the other window. No?
Not at the minute.
No? How are you going to get it?
Well, first of all, you've got to spin it in a circle instead of doing swishies. So you've gone square on again.
Well, I don't know how else to do it.
Point that way and do as you were.
Oh, like this?
No. If you're facing me, you're doing it at that angle. So I'm trying to face you that way, so you'll do it at that angle, not square on, 45 degrees at most.
I'm going to hit the window.
You're not. Based on how you swing it when you're standing square onto me, you're not. Now you're basically square on it. Wait.
Shall I go and catch it?
Now Jane had stopped giggling and I was able to vent my frustrations upon the wall, balance and harmony was restored. There were two problems in play here. The first was reach. I didn't have enough of it. The second was that jet washing wasn't getting all the dirt off. I'll have to buy a render cleaning solution and see how that works.
In terms of what this might be worth, I don't think it's a fortune. I don't think this is 18th century or Victorian even, or, I don't think this is an ancient or historic artifact. I think this was made to have that aesthetic, and it's made very well. It's cast iron, copper rivets. It's been hammered inside. It's weighty, it's solid, etc., etc. But I don't think this is going to count as an antique. Well, maybe you are. Tell me, is it worth a fortune? My guess is that this is a decorative item, and it's a high quality decorative item. I mean, copper alone is pretty expensive these days. My guess would be 100, maybe more, maybe 150 euros or something like that. But yes, we keep finding lovely things.
It was time to start laying slabs. This was my first time making a patio, so I wasn't expecting it to be a completely smooth ride. I carefully measured out sand and cement and hoped I wouldn't overcook it with too much water. I needed the slabs to have a slight fall to one side to allow rainwater to run off. This wasn't the hardest task using a spirit level. The thing I found the hardest of all was putting down the right amount of sand and cement. Too little and the slab was too low, too much and it was hard to bang the slab into place with the mallet. It wasn't long before we started to lose the light. The camera actually makes it look lighter than it was. It was time to finish up what I was doing and call it a night. Now that the solvent had been given time to work, I was back to start scraping. This turned out to be a horrendous job. Perhaps I hadn't left it long enough, or perhaps it will take several treatments. One positive though was watching the old marble hearth slowly being revealed. It was apparent that the glue had been laid extra thick on this hearth. As I suspected it might be, the hearth was cracked. We don't mind the cracks, the building is old, but they do make getting the old glue off a little bit harder.
Well, most of it has come off quite nicely, but even on the bits where you can see the marble quite clearly, I'm going to have to do another layer of the adhesive remover because there's still some there. And over on the left-hand side, it's really thick in the corner, and so it's barely touched it at all. So I'm going to have to do another thick layer of the adhesive removing gel on that side. But it's not the end of the world. It's still a very pretty marble hearth once we get it all uncovered. So I've just got to keep at it.
Good morning. It is, of course, the run-up to Christmas, and I'm going to make one of my favourite alcoholic beverages. Sadly, I won't be ready in time for Christmas, but it's great to drink throughout the year. In fact, I quite like drinking it in the summer months, so I'm sure it'll be fine by then. But basically, I'm making limoncello. Most of you will have heard of or tasted limoncello, but limoncello is effectively the same drink but made with limes, and we like to call it lime slurp for no other reason than we made that name up and it stuck. The first step of making limoncello, or lime slurp as we like to call it, is just to grate the skin off the limes, and we want to do this leaving as much of the pith on as possible, because if you start grating the pith into it, then it's never happened to me, but apparently you can then start making it a bit bitter. And we really don't want that. So I'm just using a, It's a Parmesan grater, or a hard cheese grater. All of my limes are now zested, and the next step is quite simple really. The way I found to do it best is take a large bottle of vodka and drink a bit, and then empty it into a jug. And with that done, we're going to reuse this. And I have a funnel, and I'm just going to put my zest in top a little bit at a time, and slosh it onto the table. I sometimes use a chopstick, which I don't seem to have, so I'll use a skewer. This funnel is actually a little bit smaller than the one I usually use, which I didn't bring from the UK, so the hole's a little bit smaller on the top. It just means I have to force the lime zest down through the funnel a little bit more than I would with a slightly larger funnel. There we go. That almost went in one go that time. So I've made this two different ways in the past. One is a bit like damson gin, damson gin, or sloe gin, that sort of thing. I've just sort of put the sloes in with the sugar and the alcohol, mix it up, and leave it for a month, keep shaking it whenever you remember to, and then decant the sloes and the gin apart from each other, and you get something very drinkable, lovely. So I've done that with this before, and it's worked absolutely perfectly. But I've also read that lots of people think it's done best if you steep the zest in the vodka for a couple of weeks and then decant that and then add the sugar or a sugar water solution to it, and then allow that all to percolate and mingle together for a while before you drink it. So I'm going to try the second one. So I'm just going to steep this in as it is, just let the lime and the vodka combine, and I'll come back to it in a couple of weeks and we will move on to stage 2. See you in a couple of weeks.
Well, it's early December. The sun is beating down. The back door of the kitchen faces south. It's actually really warm here, whereas it's quite cold inside, so I'm just basking at the moment. My plan today is to plant up some strawberries, and similarly to some occasions when I've been following a recipe and it suddenly says now marinade for 4 hours, or now put in the fridge for 8 hours and your guests are just about to arrive, I realised that I hadn't followed my instructions. I sort of jumped in. So I've just had to improvise slightly in order to do the best that I can for my little plants that came in the post yesterday. I found these quite big troughs. These are obviously meant to be window boxes. They're quite deep, and I started by putting some broken tiles in the bottom, then a bit of my trusty homemade compost, and then some multi-purpose compost on top. And I had to snip all the strawberries, take all their leaves off and trim up their roots, and I was supposed to plant them carefully at the right planting depth. I'm not very good at being brutal with plants. I'm going to go like that. It seems to look about right. And then I'm going to trim them up a little bit because the roots are quite long. And cut them like this. So I've got something that looks like that. And yeah, I've got 25 plants, so I'm going to put 12 or 13 in each. So yeah, it's not at all in a textbook fashion, but I think they'll be okay until I get a chance to plant them out properly. The variety is called Annabelle, and it is a perpetual variety, if that's the right word. Well, remontant is the French word, and I also saw that on the Gardener's World website. So that's the technical term. It means that they produce strawberries throughout the season. They won't be the biggest of fruits, but apparently they are very sweet and delicious. So that seems ideal, that you can just go and get a few delicious strawberries whenever you fancy, rather than suddenly having a glut you have to deal with.
So we'll see. As long as they survive, apparently transplanting strawberries in the spring is absolutely fine, de rigueur, spring and autumn. So as long as they survive in the spring, they can go out to their final planting positions.
Well, these are far from ideal conditions. It's spitting with rain. It's been raining heavily overnight. The wind is gusting up to 85 kilometres an hour. And we've got a tarpaulin down over where the slabs have been laid, but the weather isn't predicted to get any better. And this hot tub is arriving on Thursday. So I'm going to have to do some today. Peel the tarpaulin back, do the slabs, put the tarpaulin back over, and deal with it. Well, for better or worse, I've managed to get it done. All the slabs are down. It is starting to rain again, so I'm going to cover it back over with the tarpaulin and leave it. I got there by hook or by crook. It wasn't a smooth ride by any means, but it's done. Panic over. We can now wait for the few days until the hot tub arrives, and the ground should be all nice and solid by then.
No sooner had I finished the patio than the heavens opened and have remained open ever since, serving up rain and hail in generous portions. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing and checking out some of our other videos.